Good evening and welcome to Generation Movies on a Monday nights. My name is JW Colwell. I am joined as always by my good partner in crime, my good friend. Oh, there you go. Mike's not. I saw a little slash. I'm like, hope we can talk. My good friend,
I can.
Rich Drees.
Hey, everybody.
Drees, how are you tonight? How are things?
I'm exhausted.
Right.
I had a crazy busy weekend. My
Did
latest
you do something or go somewhere fun?
I was trying to explain that, man. You just run right over me. My latest short film, Murphy, was in two different film festivals this weekend. One in Allentown and one in right above Scranton. So it was the Allentown Film Festival and Northeastern PA Film Festival. We screened in Allentown on Saturday, NEPA on Sunday. Friday night was the NEPA Film Festival opening night, gala, schmooze, and hang out and chit-chat kind of a thing. So, you know, I started Friday after work with that, Saturday to Allentown, got some White Castle before I came back up north, and did the whole thing over again on Sunday. And,
as people are wont to do, they hit that White Castle. That's it's like the one White Castle in the entirety of northeastern Pennsylvania.
I am not a big fan of White Castle,
but it's nice.
The way they steam their buns, the bottom is always kind of soggy and gross. But I do occasionally go, and the interval between visits is just the amount of time I need to forget how bad the food is there until I take that first bite and was like, oh yeah, this isn't that great, but you know, what the fuck, I'm here. And the French fries are good
though. Fair. So you had a very busy weekend. I see pictures. Everybody's there. Everybody's happy.
Of course, on the left-hand side of your screen, you recognize my producing partner in crime there, Natasha. And then on the right, the other couple, that's Jamesy and Maddie. They were the two leads in the short. They both came out. They both got to hear everybody laughing and applauding. And I was so very happy that they were there to, for that great reaction for them, so they could see that, their hard work was very much appreciated by the crowd.
Yeah, you also ran into somebody famous.
Okay. One of the people on the NEPA Film Festival committee is Gabrielle Ruiz, and if you don't know the name or it sounds a little familiar, she is a working actress. She was originally based out of New York, but she's kind of living in the Pocono areas, and that's all the further I'm gonna get. That's all the vaguer I'm gonna keep that. But for me, I was excited because she voiced the Vulcan Talen on the later seasons of Star Trek Lower Decks. So she was super nice. We talked about a lot of other things. She was very nice about my short. She gave me a nice compliment or two, even calling it out in the Q&A, the director's Q&A stuff after the block we were in. And she was absolutely super cool about saying, yes, I'll take a stupid selfie, a silly selfie with you doing the Vulcan salute, because I am a big Lower Decks fan. So this was kind of like one of those all right moments. Woo! Cerrito strong, baby.
I am super, and you've had a good weekend. And it's always interesting to hear about, your movie, your movies that you and Natasha are working on. And
to be fair, there was one other short that Natasha was in that screened in the drama block that went really well. There was a feature mockumentary directed by my friend Tony, who also does all the artwork for our posters, that Natasha has a strong supporting role in that screened. I have a blink and you miss it cameo, 3-line thing.
Do you walk by a bus? Is it like an Alfred Hitchcock cameo? I'm just asking.
Just about. It just goes to show I should not be put in front of a camera. My place is behind it. But that screened also. People seem to, people were very responsive for that. They seem to like that a lot as well. So, it was fun seeing, and, my friend Tony and his partner, Zach, who is the guy who, shoots all our stuff. They had a couple of other things in the festival that, it's just a really great time getting together, watching our friends, their work that they've done, with other people, seeing people coming into this area who I didn't know at all, but are already starting to make some great work. And that makes me excited. It's like, okay, I guess we got to up our game a little bit more now. Fine.
Well, and you and I became friends because we love movies, but also because we got involved through the thing with Jeff Fowler and you and me
Community Film Project.
And so it is nice to always give back. It's always good to support independent folks and help people out. And now on to the show with your big weekend. I don't know how to follow that up. But if you are watching for the first time, you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more from us as we talk classic films, like tonight we're going to be talking Blade Runner 2049 with Ana de Armas, pointing at both of us, which is nice. We're going to be talking that movie, Blade Runner 2049, its place in movie history. Also, its place firmly entrenched in the top legacy sequels of all time place that I think we're going to get into. It's because it's clearly there. So we're gonna be talking about that. If you like what you see, like and subscribe. It takes less than a minute. It helps us out greatly. It does great for us. We have a bunch of shows on the network. We have us on, us on Monday nights. We have usually it's going to be Loud and Nerdy on Tuesday nights at 9, although there is no Loud and Nerdy this week because I'm going to get out and touch grass and actually see Jerry Kimura in Florida. He's down here cheerleading competition with his daughter. He's not doing it, but his daughter's doing cheerleading competition. So
I don't know. I think Jerry would look good in one of those skirts.
He'd be fine. I think he'd ball out. Or ball in. That's weird. But we also do a show on Thursday nights, bi-weekly, called Untrained and Unscripted with Ryan West and Joe Ridgely. They just had a show this past Thursday. And then coming up on April 15th, Symbolistic Cynicism. Gabe will be back, and he always has the best guests, And in this particular case, he's working so hard to get people, to watch the show or watch the network, and also to meet really interesting, cool, independent people. And I can't speak of it enough that the idea that if you like independent things and you want people to kind of see your stuff, or you have a movie that you want us to see and take a look at, we can do that and we can promote your things on our network. So please like and subscribe, come and see us. Certainly tune in for Gabe on April 15th with Mr. Powell from all those movies there, including Exorcist 3. Very cool show coming up for him. But he always has really good guests, and his fingers on the pulse. Sad news. Let's start sad. Let's get sad out of the way. If you had a childhood in the 70s,
which sad, because I can think of two sad things. Okay, that's not the one I was going to lead with.
Which one do you want to lead with?
We'll go with this first. We got the picture.
Okay,
I don't even know if you have a picture.
Because I can't even. I was trying to fathom a childhood without Sid and Marty Krofft. Sid passed away today. He was 96. He was a Canadian-born genius. Him and his brother and another puppeteer named Marty Krofft. They made H&R Puffin stuff in the 60s, and that played throughout the 70s. And so it just became he was one of the greatest purveyors of like amazing kids imagination television. Land of the Lost, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, Pryor's Place, that had Richard Pryor before anybody else. And they were like, you know,
Far Out Space Nuts, the Croft Super Show with Dr. Shrinker, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl,
Donnie and Marie. They produced so many things, and like, you know, he died at 96. A full amazing life.
They did variety shows.
Yeah, no,
like they did the Bay City Roller Show and Pink Lady and Jeff, which has a reputation of being fairly bad. But I will say that because I watched almost the entire run of it.
As a kid, you couldn't tell.
As it goes along.
As a kid, we couldn't tell the difference. As a kid, we couldn't tell the difference what was good and bad, and it was all like, it was so imagination filled. Even their variety stuff was, you know, like impromptu, jokey. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of set the tone for us as if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, right? Because they were on a loop. You know what I mean? Like, you could freak out. Like, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters was mine. I love Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Sigmund was a happy-go-lucky sea monster. He just he didn't want to be a sea monster like everybody else. That was my vibe. That was my jam. You know what I mean? Like, but he passed away at 96. It's, you know, some would say they're shows that are very easy to watch while intoxicated or stoned.
That's right.
And I say, why not? You know what I mean? And so,
like the Brady Bunch Variety Hour.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, there's so many things. There's so many things where they were producing or they had their hands in creating television that inspired other television, right? Like, that was the gist, is that they were first, and they were, you know, like, and then they inspired others. Like, you can't imagine the amount of things we got to watch on PBS in the 70s and 80s that, you know, you don't get to watch now at all because there's no PBS anymore. So just a whole generation, you know, kind of left out in the cold. Anyway, sorry, that was political. I don't care though. Okay, so comments quick. Good evening, gentlemen. Hi, Joe. Good evening, friends. Hi, Canadian Ken.
Evening, Joe. Ken.
Sound like Rich talking about my bones. Soggy. Ken, it sounds like a personal problem. You should work on it.
I didn't need to know that, Ken. Didn't need to know that.
It's CMI. 3 a.m. White Castle in New York. The food came out like a banking tube in the drive-thru. Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, is there 3 a.m. sounds about the right time to eat White Castle?
You gotta go. You gotta walk in.
Gotta walk in and get the box.
No.
Did you guys happen to look into the beta I sent you? I did. But not a tape. It wasn't a tape. Relax. Jerry's got the betas too. It's a beta. We're going to talk about that. Good evening, Red and Drag. Good evening. There you go, Gabe. I did it for you.
Good evening.
At this point, Jerry cheerleading wouldn't be shocking. No. Amen. Thanks, brother. Oh, you're welcome, Gabe. A lot of legends passed away this year. Yes. Who were you thinking of for yours?
Valerie Lee, the child actress from the 30s, who, when she was 7 years old, was one of the Munchkins in Wizard of Oz. She passed away earlier this week or over the weekend.
94. She was 94.
She was 94 years old. Yes. She had appeared in a couple of MGM films, including, I believe, I'm trying to scroll back through, but
Our Gang, a lot of Our Gang, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say some of the Our Gang shorts. It's interesting to know that, you know, I think everybody just kind of assumes all the Munchkins were little people for that, but MGM did kind of pepper in some of their child actors in there as well to fill out the ranks there. And she sadly second to last person to have appeared in Wizard of Oz, to have to still have been with us. And as Sunday, apparently there's just one other former child actress who had also played a Munchkin. Her name is Priscilla Montgomery Clark. She's 96. When she goes, we will be losing a living link to one of the most iconic films in American film history. So, that these people are still with us, so many years, literally like 90, almost 90 years later, that, we need to, pay attention and
did you know that the kids that were on set, there were the little people, right? And then the kids that were on set as Munchkins were called the Munch Kids. Apparently was the moniker they were given, which is a fantastic, amazing. But you're right. At some point, the lady you were talking about that's still alive is 96. So we're eventually not going to have anybody that was on that set. Which is Priscilla.
And I feel fairly confident in saying all at this point.
Yeah, I think
unless there was like an 8-year-old, running lights or something, which I don't think.
MGM was tough. Like I said, MGM was tough in the 30s.
That's true.
Whew. But yeah, I mean, it is
listen to Mickey Rourke's story or Mickey Rooney's stories about Louis B. Mayer.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think you're right. We're gonna at some point in our lifetimes we're gonna deal with the death of people that were integral. But this is a movie that's been enshrined in a Hall of Fame kind of a glass case of like movies that endure through every generation. You know what I mean? And at some point, we've already lost one of the stars of Star Wars, or one of the big three, right? You know what I mean? So it's the big three. I don't want to. I'm not disrespecting David Prowse or Peter Mayhew. I was just giving an example. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know how to transition. How do you transition to the death of one of the Munch Kids? That's rough. It's a rough transition. Yeah.
What are you going to next? What do you want to do next?
I want to talk a little bit about CinemaCon, which is happening in. Okay. Is that not what you want to talk about, or should we talk about something else?
No. That's fine.
Okay, because you're like, okay, crazy pants.
Let's kind of move from enshrining our cinematic past to taking a look what's on the cinematic horizon for us.
There you go. That was a good transition.
Hey, man, I'm a fucking writer, dude. This is what I do.
Yeah. You go, boy. You go.
I think I'm still kind of a little amped from this week, and I'm just like,
I think what's happening at CinemaCon is interesting. I think also what's happening at the box office is interesting, right? Because we're talking about right now, we're, knock on wood. The talk at CinemaCon is the first quarter of the year's up, and right now we're way ahead of last year, right? And you've had movies that are enduring right now at the box office. I cannot, the holds are what's impressive. If you're looking at the box office numbers, don't necessarily look at the numbers, because the numbers are going to be big, but the holds are what's impressive if you're paying attention. Like Super Mario Galaxy was number one in the box office this past weekend. It only dropped 48%. Now you go, oh, 48% drop. That's huge. But not for a blockbuster, and certainly not for a kid's blockbuster, which is front loaded. So it grossed 68 million over the weekend. Then Project Hail Mary only dropped 24% from last weekend, grossing another 24 million. That movie has been in release for 24 days. That's impressive. The drama also held very well, only down 39%.
That's really good because it opened under expectations to begin with.
Right, but it's holding very well. Like I said, the key to this year is not necessarily, that Super Mario Galaxy grossed $68 million and that it's already at $628 million in less than 12 days of release. It's not that. What's impressive is that a 48% drop for a kids movie is huge. Project Hail Mary is another one where you're like, Project Hail Mary is at $510 million, $500 million right now. So the question at CinemaCon, the future is, can the rest of the year hold, right? Can the rest of the year, kind of keep things going? And so my question to you is, what are the three that you think are the ones that you go, though? Actually, let's make it four. Give me four, and we'll see if we agree. Because I think there's like 4 or 5 movies that I think are $1 billion capable. Not all of them, but I think there are 4 or 5 that are in the running for $1 billion and can keep this ring going. We're basically, that's the question at CinemaCon this week. Can the rest of the year keep up? 23% over last year. That's incredible.
That's pretty good.
Like that's
okay. I'm gonna throw out 4. I'm gonna throw out 2 non-genres and 2 genre ones.
Okay.
I think even though I'm not that interested in it because of what it's not going to be covering, because now it's going to feel like a Hey Geography, but Michael is going to do Big Bank.
Okay.
But like I said, it's going to feel like it's kind of, glossing over a few things. Legally, they kind of have to. So...
yeah, that's a weird. The whole thing going on with Michael is a weird. Like the idea that they did almost $20 million worth of reshoots, and the idea that the estate approved everything and then came in and said we have to reshoot half of this, not realizing what their NDAs were, is an astounding. Yeah, it's a stunning. It's almost
if I was
like
the studio at that point, I would have said, okay, you fuckers are paying for this. For these reshoots, because it's almost like thinking you're in a picture and that you're a doctor and you're not. It's clearly not a doctor picture. Anyway, so that's a weird, that makes me nervous. Also, just the musical biopics are eventually going to run a point where they're not profitable, right? Where they're not. I mean, unless we keep on getting them, but like some of them are. They've had like a fan screening, and some of the buzz out of that has been super fucking positive. But then again, it's a fan screening. It's not like they're going to go in and sit there for 3 hours and go, I just heard all the Michael Jackson music I love, but the movie's terrible. No. They're not going to be as critical as you.
But you think about his catalog. His catalog is astounding. That's not where the questions come in. The questions come in with how badly his father beat him and whether or not he did horrible things to kids. That's where the questions are. You know what I mean? And like these biopics.
Another question in this movie is, where's Janet? Because I understand she's not in this thing at all.
I don't know. Like we're gonna get there in 2 weeks. What else you got?
Yeah. The Devil Wears Prada 2 is going to be big.
I think it's going to be sneaky big. because I was checking, like, we're a
You
month
don't think it's
out.
going to open big and like be like the girls' night out movie for like a weekend or two?
Maybe I think that, like, speaking of long legacy sequels, long time coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're talking about tonight. Like, Blade Runner 2049 came out in 2017. 35 years after the original. Devil Wears Prada 2, did it miss the boat? It was going to be my question, right? Like, that will be the question when we get there. Now, we'll say that the fan events are sold out already, so that's a good sign, right? But it's not. I don't know that it's like. I think the weekend box office from the first weekend of May this year will be 40% lower than it was last year, just on the basis of we don't have an event movie, we have Devil Wears Prada.
That's not an event for us.
Right.
But
no, I agree.
We're only half of the movie going population, dude.
I understand. I just what could it gross? I don't know. Because you would have to the other half of the male half of the population is going to be a tough sell. That's
I'm anxious to see it. I enjoyed the first one.
I don't mean to denigrate it. I'm not denigrating it. I want to wind up
if I wind up not going with like Natasha or somebody else, I will go myself. That's
I'll still
fine.
go. Yeah, no. And that's the thing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
single guys. This might be a great way to meet some single ladies. You know what I'm talking about?
It might be. I don't know. I don't know. That's one of the ones I don't know. But I think it has potential for, like, I would like that opening against something else as like counter programming, as opposed to being the event movie on that weekend. If I'm theater owners, right, I would want, if you had Devil Wears Prada opening against, like Spider-Man or something where it's like counter programming, where you're like, oh well, whatever, right? What else you got? What are the two genres? The two picks for us.
Dune 3 is going to do spectacularly well. It is not going to do as strong as Avengers Infinity War, I don't think.
Endgame.
Endgame.
Doomsday. Hold on. I even got a thing for us.
Yes.
Did you see this, by the way? Amazing. On
Easter? Yes.
Amazing.
But beyond that, I think also Spider-Man is going to do monster business.
I think Spider-Man is going to be extremely monstrous, like bigger than we think it's going to be. Like, because I think this particular incarnation of Spider-Man is on a proverbial tear, and I think crowds will go with him no matter where he goes. I also think that they've layered it enough. You add the Punisher, you add like the trailers, like gangbusters. I think that's one of the $1 billion movies of the year. I think it. And don't get me wrong, I think the interesting thing that we're going to get out of CinemaCon, I think you said it, and I agree with you. I think that Doomsday moves off of Dune's date.
We'll find out on Thursday during the
when
Disney
the real happens
panel at CinemaCon.
I think something where we're not talking
we talked about that before.
I think the Odyssey has $1 billion potential. You know what I mean? Like, although the Odyssey gets cut short because 2 weeks into the Odyssey's run, you have Spider-Man coming. Like, Spider-Man is going to crush things. Like, it's just going to absolutely destroy things. And I can't even, like, but like I said, that's all good. That's good for studios.
I would think, though, that while Spider-Man is kind of like crushing things, we're going to see the Odyssey have some long legs underneath Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, and I think the Odyssey could be the type of movie that comes back for Oscar. Oscar consideration, right? But I think CinemaCon, like the big movies at CinemaCon right now, are like the big movies that are getting the buzz that it's just started the last couple of hours today. Scary Movie 6 has taken over the Caesars Palace Resort. Yeah, but that trailer, Rich, had I will tell you point blank, on the front of Scream, I've never seen people it was the most organic reaction to a trailer I've seen, a comedy trailer I've seen in a theater in a long time. I think there was a little bit of the reaction to the Naked Gun reboot, but nothing compared to what I saw for Scary Movie 6. The idea that they're going to take the wheels off and just kind of go crazy, having kids, say fuck, on screen and all this other stuff. It seems like they're willing to pull out all the stops. And I think we've had a kind of not a puritanical comedy moment, but we've had a moment where movie comedies have not been risque or dirty or, it hasn't been that way in a while. And I just think it's the perfect time, in this dark timeline we're in, where everybody's like, I want filthy. I want completely filthy. I think that movie has potential to do very well as well. Like weird potential where it's like, we wake up on Sunday morning, that opening weekend, and it's grossed like $80 million. You know what I mean? Like just where did that come from? And like I said, I think the theater owners are worried, but they shouldn't be. I just think we're so backloaded near the end of the year. Doomsday and Dune are just so backloaded where, that Christmas and Jumanji, like that Christmas.
Yeah. And we haven't heard peep about Jumanji yet.
Right. We haven't heard anything about Jumanji. Also, I think the buzz has started for Mandalorian and Grogu. And so one or two things from people I kind of trust, and they're like, it's pretty good. Trying to get Star Wars back into theaters is pretty good. You know what I mean? Like,
I think hoping, but didn't Fandango or IMDb or somebody do like a poll of, what's the most anticipated movies of the summer or the rest of the year? And Mandalorian and Grogu didn't even make the top 20.
Yeah, hold on, I'll look it up. Let's talk.
I'll say at least that I'm always interested in, a new Star Wars movie. I don't quite fall into that group think of season 3 of Mandalorian was crap. I don't think so at all. It just went in a different direction because it had done the same type of storytelling for 2 seasons already and needed to do something, new and explore some new territory. And some people didn't like that, I guess. I don't know.
So here's the list. We're talking about whether or not the rest of the year kind of can stack up. Toy Story 5 was number 1 on the Fandango list. 6,000 movie ticket buyers find out which films they were most excited to see this upcoming summer. Toy Story 5 is number 1. Last film was released 7 years ago. No worries about market saturation, so they come back. You know what I mean? Spider-Man Brand New Day was 2. This is only in summer, by the way, just so we're clear. Devil Wears Prada, Scary Movie 6, Mortal Kombat 2, Minions and Monsters, and Insidious 6. All making it. The Odyssey was 4. Moana was 6. Supergirl was 9. Noticeably not there, The Mandalorian and Grogu. And no Disclosure Day. That's odd to me.
Well, Disclosure Day has been like so low key in its marketing right now that depending on when that first trailer came out and when that that survey was done, might be the explanation why. Because
I don't think they've opened. I don't think they've opened up the floodgates yet. And also,
no.
That might be the movie that comes out and grosses $30 million the first weekend and $40 million the next.
True.
Because it's not an IP and it's not something that people can immediately look forward to. I have a sneak like. I was watching a trailer of Minions and Monsters with my nephews, and I cannot put my finger on the idea that we're introducing kids to Cthulhu mythos. But here we are.
You're never too early to learn about the unfathomable.
Never too early to learn about H.P. Lovecraft and his unnerving view of the world. Anyway,
and his racism.
And his racism, his abject racism.
Shadow over Innsmouth. When I read it in like junior high, I was like, oh, this is a creepy story. When I read it in college, I was like, oh, this was written by a creepy guy. Because you just realize it's all about miscegenation and how he was afraid of that. And it's really fucking frightening. And it kind of bums me out. So I have never gone back the
idea that the minions are reading from the Book of the Dead, it looks like the Book of the Dead. And they're casting monsters, and it's like, this one's a baby. You know, my nephews were in hysterics, and I was like sitting there going, this is great. How do I explain Cthulhu? Gabe writes, my friend
when they're in junior high and they're smuggling Stephen King novels in their book bag or something like that. That's just a great gateway drug, and that helps them. That's awesome.
My friend's uncle is one of the original Munchkins. Gabe
Which one, Gabe? Do you know?
Excited for the new Resident Evil reboot. Zach Kreger is kind of undefeated right now, so maybe that's like the Resident Evil nut to crack. Will we ever get a Resident Evil movie that's decent? I don't know. Insidious 6 trailer looks good. Obsession is another one. Horror movies. The horror movies that everybody is talking about are Obsession, which is about a kid who makes a wish, for the girl of his dreams to fall in love with him. And then the other one everybody's talking about is Adam Scott in Hokum, which is about a kind of a curmudgeonly guy that writes travel books, and he goes to like an Ireland hotel where there's a demon in the woods stealing kids. So,
I figure that's just like all of Ireland.
Thanks for tuning in, Adam. We're super excited. We just found out from the Grand Puda, Adam Marcus is here. Thank you for joining us. We're appreciative. Filmmaker. Good to have you. Thanks for tuning in, Jamie. Is that our good friend? Yeah, she's here. We love her. Jamie is super nice. Hey boys. Hey Raven. How are you?
Raven.
No show tomorrow night, Raven. Raven. Hi, Joe. I can almost hear it in the. This is the new Spider-Man movies. Looked amazing in Dolby Vision. Sound amazing in Dolby Atmos. I didn't remember that happening to Aunt May. What happened? The newer. Okay, so you didn't realize that Aunt May got gat by the Green Goblin. Green Goblin tries a lot of damage in that movie. Okay, so I think the rest of the year looks good. I would like to see us get to pre-COVID levels. Be nice.
If it's not going to happen this year, then most likely next year. Simply because we next year we're looking at Avengers: Secret Wars to wind down everything.
You got 2 in March. I'm going to tell you right now, there's 2 in March that have potential. Supernova, Godzilla vs. Kong Supernova.
Yep.
These are 2 on my chart because of the boys that live in my house. Godzilla vs. Kong Supernova, which comes out in March, and Sonic 4 comes out in March.
Okay. And sometime in March or April, don't we have the re-release of the original unspecialized version of Star Wars?
February. That's February.
February. Okay. And then in May of next year, we'll have the man of our hour today, Ryan Gosling in Star Wars Starfighter.
And we'll also have,
as it's a new kind of a thing, I think that's going to excite people more than maybe Mandalorian.
I also, don't we get Superman next year as well? Don't we get the Man of Tomorrow next year?
Man of Tomorrow, yeah. It starts shooting
we
at
get
the
Brainiac,
end of this week, I think.
Brainiac on the screen for the first time. Let's fucking go. Like I said, Sean Smithson, good to have you. Thank you for joining us tonight, brother. Okay, let's get to what we're working on. We're working on legacy sequels. And in 1982, by the way, it kind of coincides with our show because we started the show in 2022 when I looked at a screensaver and told Rich I'd like to do a movie history show. And 1982 was one of the single greatest summers of my life. just because the movies that summer were amazing. And we did Blade Runner, I think, early on in our run. And Blade Runner is one of my all-time favorite movies. The history of Blade Runner for me is deep. I saw it in a smoky New York Warner Brothers screening room with my dad. I was the only child in attendance at 8. And I came out of it and I was like talking to the adults, like, I'm like, that's the coolest movie I've ever seen. And they're like, why are you here? Anyway, and my dad was
like,
look
at
well,
you now. They're probably all like in a retirement home or something.
Well, no, but I look at it. I look at it this way. Like, the funny thing there is, my dad would just let me talk anyway, and then they would go, "Oh, that's why he's here. He's a savant. Like, he's a super nerd." Like, I think the way I got around that, when the one person said, like, you're a little young for this, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, but you know what? I'm a big Ridley Scott fan. I love Alien, and my dad showed me Lawrence of Arabia, and then immediately you're okay. If you mention, if you're at Warner Brothers and you mention movies that they understand and love, you move on. So my history of Blade Runner is pretty, I've been through all the cuts, the 8 different versions of the movie. I have the case. Hold on. I have one of the single greatest DVD boxes of all time.
Same here.
It's such a great. The kit with the opening as the spinner car. The DVD packaging so dense. It's got 8 versions of the movie. It's the ultimate collector's edition. Look at that. Really great. And of course it comes with, if you're really, in case you're wondering about whether or not you are a replicant or not, it comes with its own little uniform. Anyway, so I am big into Blade Runner. I've always been big into Blade Runner. When they were saying they were making a sequel, I was nervous. I think everybody who's a fan of the movie was nervous when this movie came out. And I think the interesting thing here is, what's become amazing about it is that Blade Runner 2049 has become, at least critically, one of the greatest legacy sequels ever made. Right? It's all of a sudden become a standard. Also, it kind of became a calling card for Denis Villeneuve, right? Villeneuve. And so it becomes this standard bearer. And I think that's one of the reasons, I love movies, and the idea that we can go back to the 35 years. But the 35 years were some of the most, in reading, Rich, you do a history of Blade Runner and the franchise, and it's just a fucking, it's lawsuits and madness, and can we do this, and how should we do that, and why is this being made, and how should we go about doing this, right? So disputes, like from the 90s on, you had disputes with Philip K. Dick's estate. He's, of course, the original writer of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is the movie Blade Runner, or the book Blade Runner is based on. And you had Ridley Scott, who tried to do a project that was like a standalone sequel. And then he tried to do a project with his son and younger brother, Tony, right? So he had something called a sequel called Metropolis that he was working on. He also had a sequel called Purefold he was working on. So, then they had to buy the rights, and it becomes like, it's not a matter of whether people wanted the sequel or if the people who were involved in the original wanted to do a sequel. It was a matter of the rights, and it's one of the more tangled webs, because you get eventually Alcon Entertainment comes in. They basically go to Bud Yorkin, who is one of the original producers on the original Blade Runner, and basically try to buy the intellectual property from them. But in the NDA they signed, they can never reboot Blade Runner. they have to do a sequel or a prequel. And then they started working on, like, they were able to do derivative media, syndication, franchising, games, television, and small movies and anime and stuff. But they weren't able, like, eventually they got to the point where, like, well, we can't make any money unless we have an actual big screen a sequel of some sort, right? And I don't know that that's necessarily the reason to make a legacy sequel. But in this particular case, it becomes a lucky accident, a happy accident, because all of the time that passes between the first movie and this movie, it allows Alcon to have Ridley Scott come on board, right? And he's announced as the first director on the sequel. And they bring back, they have Michael Green from Alcon Entertainment as the writer. They bring back Hampton Fancher, who of course was the screenwriter on the original movie, to write the script. And then it kind of gets rolling, right? Scott steps away because he's still
working on the Martian at this point, and he had some commitments for Alien Covenant that some actors weren't going to be available unless he stepped to that. So they looked around and approached Denis Villeneuve. Apparently they I'm trying to remember the name. They handed him a script that just had one word. It was a false title on there. Can't remember what it was, but they basically said, here, that's not the real title. It's Blade Runner 2. And he went and read it, and he loves Blade Runner so much, it took him 2 weeks to decide if he really wanted to make this movie or not.
Yeah, they met him for coffee, and he didn't know why he was being brought to this place. And at this point he had made Arrival and he had made Prisoners, and so he'd worked with Alcon on Prisoners, right? So there was a relationship there. But when he gets that script passed to him across the table, Blade Runner, when he talks about this movie after the fact, he will say Blade Runner is one of the reasons I got into making films. Like, I saw the original Blade Runner and I wanted to make original films. And one of the things that I think is important to legacy sequels, Rich, like, you look at this scene, right? This picture that's up right now, which is Ryan Gosling walking into his apartment in a snow-laden, ash-laden LA. And one of the things that I think is so important in these legacy sequels is there has to be some underlying love for the original movie. There has to be something there for this, not some up and coming director getting something and I think when you see these legacy sequels, the best way to get a legacy sequel right is if you have the proper you have the material mixed with somebody who has a passion for the project, as opposed to just, I'm going to make the new Blade Runner, right? And Denny is definitely on board with that, right?
Well, I mean, to address that, replicating that look, that noirish look of the original, that was Denny working with the amazing and wonderful and fantastic, and there aren't enough superlatives for his work, Roger Deakins as the cinematographer. They did an extensive. The two of them basically sat down with the editor and did an extensive storyboarding process. Yeah, to make sure they had everything right. They knew exactly which angles they wanted, exactly where all the lighting was. They also worked. This was what I found interesting. Throw that picture back up that you just had there.
Sure. Which one do you want? You want the winter?
No, the other one. Yes. Okay. What's great about this picture is they worked with the production designer to make sure all the light that you see in this movie is motivated from somewhere. It's actual practical lighting, above the desk area here is just flooding that. It's not like light from outside is coming in or anything like, off the set is coming in. It's all very practical within the environment of the film, which I think, gives it, some really cool shadows, as you can kind of see, on the right-hand side of Gosling here, but it also kind of helps become more immersive in the world, and it just makes it feel, it just draws you in that more.
Yeah, it sucks you right in. And also the production design, an interesting little fun fact is that the first movie is very rounded. And what they said is one of the things they came up with in their previs of the movie was that most societies go from rounded to very angular, right? So like the little car I just held up, the spinner car from the original Blade Runner, is very round. But the new spinner in this movie, and like even this angle, like even this desk, right, that you're looking at, everything is angular. Everything is like straight lines, and
it's noirish Soviet brutalism architecture. It really
it was filmed in Hungary, so yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So it becomes one of those things. But Deakins again won an Oscar for the cinematography here. The film won best visual effects. It was nominated for 5 other Academy Awards. Ford probably should have been nominated, but he wasn't, which is a crime against humanity in film. But one of the cinematography things.
Do you know why they filmed in Hungary?
Because they got a giant tax credit.
No,
and
they wanted to shoot in London, but Marvel and Last Jedi had all the stages.
Right, and none of the stages at Elstree or England worked.
Yeah,
and then Hungary coughed up a huge tax credit. And when they got there, one of the interesting things about Hungary is you wouldn't believe how ancient castles and everything look like big open spaces. And so this shot, I production wise, I just want to show you. This is a final shot for the movie, and this is what I want to show you what they were actually dealing with, which I thought was fascinating. Amazing. Like, look at the final shot, how brilliant it is, how bleak and just awful it is, and then look at what they were actually filming on the day of. They're kind of, it doesn't.
I will say that's a little disappointing, because if you like going on your vacations and going to filming locations, you're never going to be able to visit that location.
Well, the one you can visit if you really want to go visit, the one that came up the most when Ford and Gosling hook up in Vegas, and all of the Vegas locations, and this is true, Rich, were an old Budapest castle. So they toured Slovakia. They went all these different places. The entire crew is almost all Hungarian. Some American staff that basically were hired to supervise the other people. They did Korda Studios, Origo Studios backlit in Budapest. They got a 25% tax rebate on the cost of the film. So the budget on the movie is 180. Rebates notwithstanding, and they put up. But Budapest Stock Exchange's Liberty Square Palace doubled for the Las Vegas casino, all set scenes, right? Also, Blade Runner, the filming locations, Budapest Palace was the film's largest set, occupying at least 3 floors of the building. Filmmakers revised Deckard's capture by love into a simple conversation scene after Ford fought about it. Ford, he likes his brevity. But it's one of those, like, the other thing that I was fascinated by cinematography-wise, production-wise, before we move on, Roger Deakins wins an Oscar for this. It's the 3rd time he's worked with Denis, right? It's the 3rd time they worked together. And the other movies they've worked on have all looked spectacular, right? But the interesting thing here is that they got into a fight early with a bunch of people. So, and I was amazed. Deakins had full artistic control of the entire shoot, and he basically had an oversight with a single camera setup for the set. The British cinematographer got into a fight with him, wanting a 9-unit camera setup because he thought the technique would yield sloppy camera work. And basically Deakins told the guy, no, we can't do one camera setups for this movie.
Mhm.
So they they shot in 155 to 1 aspect ratio from a single camera, one camera, with a crane arm or a dolly. And it's an incredible, like, I think when you look at this movie, it does not look like a one camera setup movie. It just doesn't.
No. Well, actually, it does to me, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because when you're putting up more than one camera, you're suddenly going to go, okay, I have to light these my actors, my set for both angles of the camera, and that just adds an extra layer of complexity. The more you add, the more you're adding more lighting and everything else needed. And just since this is a very very pre-designed look to every single shot, once you start adding a second or a third camera and the additional complexities for that, you're going to lose the specificity of what you were looking for with just that single camera.
I think it's one of the most beautifully shot movies I've ever seen. And then we haven't even talked about the casting. The interesting, like, the choice they make here is somebody kind of having a moment right now. Ryan Gosling is picked, and he gets cast. Ford and him are the first two people cast. Edward James Olmos and Ford are the only two that are from the original movie. Gosling comes in. Gosling is the young pup, and it's before he's actually been big yet. Like he's there, but he hasn't been in anything super big. But this becomes his largest opening weekend. We also add Ana de Armas, who is basically jumping in English speaking role. She's fantastic as Joy. It's such a unique kind of role for her. She's really great in the role. You have Jared Leto playing Niander Wallace, the Terrell replacement, who's definitely high on his own supply about being a god. And Leto, the funny thing here for me is that they originally wanted David Bowie, right? But Bowie passes away two months before the film started filming, and they picked Leto because he was getting buzz off of the Suicide Squad, and that he was a rock star. They wanted a rock star character. Of course, Leto on set did funky shit. Basically, one of the stories going around about this movie is that he wore custom opaque contact lenses so that he would be on set completely blind. He had an assistant. And while that may have rubbed some people the wrong way on Suicide Squad, Denis apparently loved it. And if you believe it, I don't know. I was watching the scene with Ford and Leto, and I felt like I was watching that scene today. We're going to get into it, but the scene happens near the end of the movie, and Leto touches Ford, and I got like, Ford pulls away, and it's supposed to be in character, but I was wondering to myself whether it's like, get this opaque lens freak away from me. Like, I was wondering if it was just Ford's reaction to Leto as opposed to Deckard's reaction to Wallace. It's that good. Okay, couple things. Let me go through comments, and then we'll move on to box office, because that's where things get interesting. Tell me you're doing a really good movie next Monday, boys. Yes. Something really smoky, laugh out loud. Perfect timing, JW. Yes, I agree. We are doing something that's perfect timing for 420 Day. I agree. We're doing Alien. 420. LV 420 is the planet where the alien lives. It's Alien Day. So, yeah, it's perfect. I agree. I totally agree, Raven. She's going to be so mad at me. You're so mad about that. Saturday, May 30th, great Ridley Scott, 39 Legend and Blade Runner, the final cut of Mahoming Drive-In. That's a word. That's an interesting. Like, Legend is an interesting one just because it's such a weird little movie. And then my question would be, if they're showing the Blade Runner, the final cut, why are they not showing Legend, the European cut that everybody talks about? Thanks for tuning in, TJ. We appreciate you. Jordan Catalano. Okay. Don't know why that's being said. But we move on to box office. Everything, I think everything lines up perfectly for this movie, even though it's 35 years after the fact. Box office, however, and this is where the story gets weird too, Rich. So the tracking for the movie early was that it was people wanted to see it. They had an idea in their head. Actually, I'm sorry. We got to go back. We do need to go back to one thing about production. It has to be discussed that there is an interesting Sean Young story. She gets full credit in the movie, right? But
isn't there always an interesting Sean Young story?
There's always an interesting.
I would settle for an uninteresting Sean Young story, but she doesn't live that life for us.
That is not who she is. Basically, what they had to do was they took concept from the original movie, they took video, they imposed it over another actress, and Sean Young came to the set and helped that actress achieve the Rachel that appears in the movie. It is a really interesting thing because it's like from a standpoint, Rich, it's like, we can't trust you to be in the movie because you're batshit insane, but we can pay you a fee and give you an acting credit and try to get you some cash and take care of you because you are an integral part of the original movie. And you're an integral piece of the script. It's actually the best scene in the movie, in my opinion, is the Deckard, Wallace, Rachel. That scene is the best scene in the movie to me. But box office, here's where things go crazy, right? So it releases in October. They thought they had a hit, right? And basically the marketing and Warner Brothers and Columbia and everybody took pieces of the movie thinking that it was going to be a hit. But when it opens, it kind of it fizzles. It fizzles immediately, right? It ends it's initially projected to have a $43 to $47 million opening weekend, which would be great in October, right? For a non-horror film. Fantastic. And Fandango, we were talking about the Fandango anticipated. It was in September 2017 survey, the most anticipated movie of the winter season on that list. So maybe we shouldn't take that list so seriously.
Okay.
It made $4 million
nice callback, by the way.
Yeah. It made $4 million in Thursday night previews, including $800,000 from IMAX theaters. Then it just grossed $12.6 million on its opening day. So the estimates went from $43 million to $32 million. Then it only made $11 million on Saturday. So it went on to debut to 31.5, well below projections, still finishing number one. And it was a career high for Denis and Gosling's movies at the time before Barbie. To this day, when asked about it, and it's in one of the movies I watched, the little documentaries today, it's a mystery what happened. All the indexes and marketing tools they were using predicted that it would be a success. The film was acclaimed by critics. Everyone expected the first weekend's results to be impressive, and then they were shocked. And we're still looking at what happened. They still don't understand what happened in this movie. And then, people have picked and looked. So the movie goes on to gross $92.1 million in the United States, $175 around the world. which isn't bad. Like, it's not bad. But the budget is 185.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a movie that grosses a worldwide box office total of 259. The budget's $185 million. And it's just
Yeah, it
not
needed
good.
500 million to break even.
Yeah, I mean, the conservative estimates were 400 million, but it opened on 4,000 screens, Rich. It only played about 5 weeks. So this is a key movie where you're looking where it's not just a miss, it's a huge miss. And it's like, the interesting thing about it, Rich, is that it's spawned all kinds of, like, what happened. It's like almost like those old documentaries on E or MTV. What happened? The band blew up. Deadline Hollywood at one point did a giant article about the idea that the running time was the cause, because theaters couldn't have enough performances. Then there was like talk about the marketing was too vague and it relied a little bit too much on nostalgia and not enough, and there wasn't enough of a fan base in the original movie to carry it, which I thought was interesting because I think it's one of the most regarded 80s movies now. I mean, again, if you look back to the numbers for the original weren't great.
No.
So, and the original opened against fucking E.T., so good luck. You know what I mean? Like, it was playing against E.T. and The Thing and all these other movies that came out in 82, and it just kind of evaporated. Second weekend happens, Rich. It goes from 31 million to 15 million. It loses first place to Happy Death Day. In its third weekend, it drops another 54%. Again, that's not bad, though. 54% for a genre event movie is not bad. But the initial was so low that it wasn't enough to sustain it. It drops to 7.2, and it finishes fourth behind Boo 2, A Medea Halloween, Geostorm, and Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
And it just makes you want to kill yourself. Because it's a great movie. It's not just a good movie. It's a great movie. Rewatching today.
It would have been great if it made its money back, but it didn't. But we still have the movie. It's not like they said, well, it didn't make its money back, so we have to destroy the film. We still have it today. And
we're lucky Zaslav didn't run Warner Brothers at the time.
Jesus, yeah. But this is, it's a win, though. It's a win.
It is a win because it's a 35-year-old. It's a 35-year-old legacy sequel. And I think it's got astonishing visuals, but I don't think the visuals are like, the visuals are incredible. I showed you some of them. Like, it is a beautiful.
And I do want to like, a lot of those were actually bigatures that were done by the folks at Weta. They built large models and then, smoked up the room and moved the camera through them. They weren't digitally recreated.
I think the visuals are like, they're so astounding. Like, it's such a visually stunning movie. Like, I like the simple scenes like this where he's walking and it's snowing but like everything about the movie, like, like the car, the first time, Batista's in it. Batista's great. Everybody talks about The Rock as the best wrestling actor. It's Roddy Piper and Dave Batista. Just so we're clear, the best wrestling actors in recent time, Roddy Piper and Dave Batista. Dave Batista's been in a lot of cool movies that you may not realize, but he's working hard.
This is a movie that really kind of made me sit up and notice him.
He's
I enjoyed him in the Guardians films, but here I was like, oh, okay.
Well, and he has a really great scene. He has a great scene with Gosling. He holds his own. The fun thing about Batista, when you're watching him in a movie, you think he's a wrestler and you're like, he's not going to be able to hold his own. But 9 times out of 10, he's holding his own with the people that are in the scene with him, whether it be Jodie Foster or Ryan Gosling or Chris Pratt, or Zoe Saldana. Like, he's holding his own with all of the heavyweights, and I think that's an interesting side hustle. Like, he's become one of the better wrestling actors. Gosling is fantastic in this movie. He's haunting. He's charming. He has, it's, going back and rewatching this movie is almost 10 years too early, right? Because this movie, like, he has the Gosling character, Kay, has the joy. She's like an AI, wife, right? She's like an AI girlfriend. And I was thinking to myself, it's like the original Blade Runner. How prescient is this movie that it's talking about sense of loneliness, losing touch with actually touching other people, right? There's an incredible sequence in the middle of the movie where Anna Darmus's Joy character sets up a date with an actual hooker because Ryan Gosling's Kay has never actually touched anybody in real life. And so she sets up a thing, and then it becomes a creepy AI over the person that he's actually having sex with. And it becomes, it also sets the movie in motion about, where do women belong in a dystopian society where people are creating human beings, creating replicants, and women are less valued. It's kind of the world it's ahead of its time, is what I'm saying, right? It's so far ahead of its time. One of the criticisms of the movie that you're going to hear, and it's not a particularly festive place for women to live in this future. They're sex objects, in charge of things, but not necessarily actually in charge. Niander Wallace is kind of this godlike figure played by Jared Leto, who is so jealous of women that he has set forth that he wants 1 million kids. Where have you heard that one before? And just watching this movie today and realizing it was made almost 10 years ago. It's 9 years. I was amazed at the level of hits that the script had, right? The entrenching sense of loneliness of young males, the idea that billionaire tech people are not saviors; they're messiah complex hedonists that are kind of like they want to take everything away so that they can provide it.
And if you notice, he built his business on the bones of the Tyrell Corporation, basically inheriting all of their stuff. And that is an accusation that's been leveled at a number of
the tech guys. And that's true. Like the Tyrell Corporation goes out of business at the beginning of this movie, right in the cut screen. We've also had an ecosystem failure, and Niander Wallace has stepped into the void because he creates bug farms. He creates protein farms, is what they're called, protein farms. And so it's one of the things we're going to look back on someday with Blade Runner 2049 is how many things in the script, just the impending doom, the loneliness, the idea that we don't understand women and we want to be men. Sometimes men get into this thing where if like, I can't create life, so I'm going to create life. And there is a stunning detachment between the Niander Wallace character and fathers and mothers. Yeah, there's a sequence where he gives birth to a replicant and it kind of splats on the ground. And in the same 5-minute span, he realizes that it hasn't worked and that Tyrell's little feature for Rachel, that she is able to get pregnant and able to give birth, he can't get it. He can't figure out Tyrell's trick. And so the replicant falls on the ground. She gets up and he guts her and kills her and doesn't even think twice about it. Yeah. Because she's a failed experiment. And
she's product.
She's product. And that's So the question becomes, Rich, if you're reviewing this movie today versus 2017, you can look at it that women are product, women are, women or whatever. I look at it as a stunning rebuke of the idea that we're inching towards a world where women are not important. And and I think this movie is so ahead of the curve.
In a certain way, I dare say this kind of would kind of feel thematically very close to The Handmaid's Tale, both the TV series and the original film based on Margaret Atwood's book.
Well, like I said, in reading the reviews, one of the things going back, there are full articles and full things you can read. Critical response. First off, so we use Rotten Tomatoes as a good gauge to go back and look. 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, 89% on the popcorn meter. So it hits a mark. There's a lot of reviews, but one of the things I want to touch upon in the critical response then and now, the reviews were all off the charts, like visually stunning. The key for this as a legacy sequel, though, is not only is it its own movie, but it adds on to the original, right? It makes the original better.
It pluses.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It pluses. Yeah. Can we take a moment here while we're starting to dive into reviews? Because I want to read the first 2 paragraphs from my review that I wrote.
Oh, interesting. I'm so intrigued.
And I think this also might address some of the reasons why box office was low, was because people didn't know what the hell this film was going to be. Okay. Title is Blade Runner 2049 is great, but we can't tell you why. At the critic screening of Blade Runner 2049, the long-incoming sequel to Ridley Scott's classic 1982 science fiction noir, a publicist read out a letter from director Denis Villeneuve asking us writers to not mention in our reviews a long laundry list of elements from the film. I can certainly sympathize with any director who hopes to keep the surprises of their films under wraps until the film is actually playing to audiences in theaters. In this day of near instant dissemination of spoilers online, it can be a daunting task. But while Villeneuve's request included a number of surprises and twists that I wouldn't even think about revealing, it also featured many more elements, including some things that are revealed in the first minutes of the film. So, with my hands metaphorically tied behind my back, I believe I can at least safely reveal the following. The movie has characters. They are played by actors who are mostly quite good. Some of these characters are Blade Runners, police officers who hunt down rogue androids that can pass as humans. Many of these characters exchange dialogue with other characters. The movie takes place in the year 2049, and the movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Although it has a very deliberate pace, the film doesn't really feel that long. Snark aside, Blade Runner 2049 is a minor masterpiece of science fiction. It may not rank quite as high as Scott's original film, but Villeneuve gets pretty close. And, it goes on from there. But
I think that's interesting. I think that's a really interesting thing. How
it was. I remember huddling up with a couple of directors after the screening, and we were all like, have you ever seen any time where they were like, just don't talk about this? They were like, don't talk about the nature of Kay's character. Don't talk about the nature of his relationship with the Ana de Armas character. Don't talk about what's his face. Oh, geez, I'm just blanking on his name all of a sudden. Wrestler guy from the first scene.
Dave Bautista.
Yeah, okay. Dave Bautista. Jesus. Don't talk about the nature of Dave Bautista's character. And I'm sitting there thinking, I really wish if I had known that publicist was going to read that letter, I would have started writing down all of these things, or I had pulled out my phone to, audio record her reading it,
Well, and
because it was
I think that's part of
insane. It was insane. Like I said, the kind of handcuffs that they put on us that we couldn't really talk about. I wound up talking a little bit about the theme, a little bit about the cinematography and stuff, but even then it was hard, and there's so much that I wanted to dig into in my review for this that I just couldn't because of that.
Well, we're here now, and what I would say is, I think the thing, like I said, the themes, the loneliness, the idea of trying to control over something, right? I can't necessarily control my life, but I can control all these replicants I'm creating, right? The Niander Wallace character is fascinating. The Deckard character, like, I think like I said, the most interesting scene for me, his scenes with Gosling are great. His scene with Leto is fantastic. Ford is, again, as we watch Ford age, and as we get closer to the time when he's not going to be with us, may it not be, may I make it past, well past. May he make it so far past. He is, without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite actor, and he will always be my favorite actor. But it's not because he played all the characters I love. It's because every time I see him in a movie or a television project or something, he's giving me something new. And I think the tragedy of this particular character, the idea that when you start putting the pieces together, and we can talk about it because the movie's been out for 9 years, the idea that this movie, the crux of the key to the movie, which is that Rachel was a child possible replicant who can give birth to children, and creates like a hybrid species. The idea that the original Blade Runner came out it took place in 2019, and that Rachel dies in 2021, 2 years after the fact. And that Deckard at that point is approached by a replicant facing lobby that says, your child is so inherently special, we have to protect it at all costs, and you have to go because you attract attention. And so Deckard's job is that Deckard's job is that he can't be there for his child. You couple that with the profound concept that the child he has, and for the good portion of the movie, everyone in the audience thinks the child is Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling has he has a memory that's been implanted. He remembers a wooden horse at an orphanage, and even his AI is fooled to the point where she thinks he's the child. So you get this whole thing where it's like, wow, the Gosling is going to be this special character. And midway through the movie, he meets a character that designs memories. And it's a fantastic scene. It's all of the visual effects of the film on display. She's behind a glass case because she has a genetic disorder. She can't go outside of her box, but she's hired as a contractor to create memories. And she creates birthdays, and she creates memories for replicants. And she's like, birthdays are my favorite. I love making birthdays, right? Like, and then he tells her a memory of his, and he wants to know where, the idea of if it was real, if it was imagined or whatever. And she puts the memory in the little thing she's looking in, and all of a sudden you see the tears coming down her eyes. And you may know if you're really into the vibe of the movie at that point, that she is Rachel and Deckard's daughter. But it is one of the great reveals that Gosling is not the chosen one. He's not special. And him coming to terms with the fact that he isn't actually special. He's just another, model off the shelf. But he is, because he's become something different than what he was set out to be, which is just a Blade Runner, just a detective, right? Used to hunt down his own kind. And the movie is so good, and it's so well done. And we haven't even gotten to the point where I talk about there's a scene where Niander Wallace wants Rick Deckard to give up the child. Deckard doesn't know who the child is. And Niander Wallace comes with the greatest like gift he can give Deckard. And it's basically a perfect version of Rachel when she was young, right out of the fucking first movie. And Harrison Ford, that sequence with Harrison Ford and Jared Leto is electric. It is, and just the sadness on Ford's face. I don't know how he didn't get a supporting actor nomination. I really don't. I look at it and I go, maybe we just take him for granted. Maybe he's the most taken for granted actor in Hollywood. Like the idea that he makes the Yellowstone spinoff, he makes Shrinking, he makes, he appears in this movie. Like he just kind of shows up and does great things. He shows him, like he steals The Force Awakens, right? When he shows him The Force Awakens, everybody's like, fuck, Han Solo's back, right? I think this scene with Niander Wallace is one of the best scenes of his career. And rewatching it today, I was so moved by his facial expressions, the sadness, the weariness on his face as he's looking at Rachel, and then the rebuke, the stunning rebuke. He turns and he says, I put her eyes were in, her eyes were green. And it's also a rebuke because at one point Leto said, "Oh my God, it's fucking amazing." And at one point Leto says to him, "I think either you were created to fall in love with her, or you happened to fall in love with her because they knew who you were, and it was just a fluke. And you were put together to impregnate her because this is Terrell's like whatever." And Ford goes, "I know what the real thing is." Yes, real connection. That's what the movie's about. And it's just, and then you have the scenes with Kay and Joy, and there is real connection there. It's synthetic, but for them it's real, right?
Yes.
I am completely moved by the movie. I'm also completely moved by the idea that it makes the first movie a bigger tragedy than I would have wanted at the end of the movie to be.
But
and
it also undercuts something from the original movie.
Go ahead. Sure. It does.
What's the one thing people have argued about for decades?
Well, the argument for any Blade Runner fan was he a replicant?
Yeah. And was Deckard a replicant or not?
Was Deckard a replicant or was he created?
And here they pretty much answer that question.
Well, the interesting thing is Ridley Scott still says he is, right? So Ridley Scott's constantly saying he's definitely a replicant. But the interesting thing is Ford has always maintained that he is not a replicant. He is an actual flesh and blood human being. And that falling in love with Rachel is the point of the fucking movie. It's the point of the original. Like it's you know what I mean? Like if he's a replicant and he's just designed to do the replicant things, it doesn't, they're falling in love while an anomaly isn't as important. And this movie doubles down on the fact that their love story not only is important, but Terrell gave him the greatest gift he could give him.
They posit that Rachel was specifically created to be able to have children. If Deckard was a replicant, then he would have been specifically created to be able to impregnate.
Yes.
And that is not addressed. That's not said, oh yeah, by the way, we made you so you're
Well, that if that reveal had happened, I will say one thing. I think the fight about the logic puzzle of whether or not he's a replicant or not, what memories you have, are they real, are they fabricated? all of those things that come up in the original movie. If they had dropped the bomb that he was a replicant in this movie, I think it really would have negated my good feelings about the movie. But also, I think like the scene is perfectly encapsulated by Ford. I know the real thing. We had the real thing. I fell in love with her. She fell in love with me. And we created a miracle. Like, that line from Batista is so important.
Mm-hmm.
You are like this. You hunt your own kind because you've never bore witness to a miracle. And so, like, Terrell in his dying days before he gets killed by Roy Batty by having his eyeballs crushed out of his fucking skull, he creates a replicant that can have babies. Now, the saddest part is that she dies during cesarean section. Rick Deckard and Rachel only get 2 years. It makes the first film so more important. So more, like, the 2 years are so important, right? And I couldn't get over like Gosling being so good. Gosling's always good, but he's really good here. It's a really hard role because he's playing straight man and he's also playing like emotionalist, but he's also playing he's playing all the different things that you need to play when you're playing an android, right? But he's also playing a lonely person. He's lonely. He's intrinsically lonely, right? His big bonus that he gets after he kills Batista is he goes and he buys a better thing so his girlfriend can go everywhere with him, right? A little encoder so she can go with him wherever he wants her to go, wherever she wants to go. It's intrinsically sad. It's early, right? We are facing a crisis in this country right now of men and AI women that don't put up any kind of a fight, right? The whole point of the relationship with a woman is that you, or anyone for that matter, is that you have to have an interaction. If there's nothing coming from the other side, we all lose, right? Mm-hmm. This movie hits it first. It hits it in 2017. Who knew where we would be in 2026 when we're doing this review? But the idea that it hits it this early, the movie is so good. The performances are great. Everybody across the board. Edward James Olmos has an amazing scene where he's just kind of like, it's the detective going to check out all the leads scene, and it turns out to be Edward James Olmos, hamming it up as Gaff, just making little origami puppets, and Robin Wright's great. Anna de Armas is really good as Joy. Mackenzie Scott, fantastic. She, of course, is now starting to become a much bigger actress. If you're paying attention to her, I'm paying attention to her career. She's starting to hit a lot more things. Like here, she plays the prostitute, right? She plays Mariette, who tracks him. But she's been, since this movie, she's gone on to, she did Terminator Dark Fate. She did The Turning, Irresistible, Speak No Evil. She's been working, right? Anna de Armas, of course, has been Oscar nominated since this movie. This is her first English language movie, right? But the Ford and Gosling and their scenes together are great. Their scenes, are tense at first, and then Ford, of course, grumbles, I don't have time. You want to get a drink, and then they drink, and the special effects are amazing. The visuals are incredible. The cinematography is incredible. I in many ways, it's possibly the best legacy sequel of all time. And I'm not talking about sequels that come out just after a movie comes out. We're going to talk about one next week or in the next 2 weeks. That's a completely different movie from the first movie, and it's all the better for it. And we will have fights about which one is better, the first or the second. But this is to have a sequel that makes the first world better, makes the first movie better, and also stands on its own. It's I'm not saying it's this good, but it has to be in terms of like sequels. It's got to be up there with Godfather Part 2. Got to be up there with sequels where we've sat back and go, this adds on and creates more and holds its own. And I think that Villeneuve deserves a ton of credit for that. Let's talk legacy, because what a fucking mess this is. Let's talk legacy franchise viability. So this franchise is constantly viable, right? And it's constantly being like, I was looking it up today. There are so many things in the fucking mill, Rich, right? There are games. There are role-playing games. There are video games. There are shorts. There's 3 short films that explore the events before this movie. So there's 2036 Nexus Dawn. There's 2048 Nowhere to Run. There's Blade Runner Blackout 2022 is an anime that happened that describes the blackout that's described in this movie. There is a Black Lotus anime TV series created by Toonami and Crunchyroll that takes place in 2032 LA that has a female protagonist, Replicant. Then, as you're looking through, we have a show that is supposed to come out for the last 5 years. Actually 4 years. But it's apparently going to hit this year. Maybe. Blade Runner 2099. So what's amazing is this movie kind of like, what I would say about this movie, its importance in the legacy and the franchise viability, is that it resets the clock on this franchise, right? So Blade Runner comes out in 82. We don't get a sequel for 35 years. Probably too long between movies, if we're being fair. And also, probably aging out a lot of the fans of the original movie. But the reset happens in 2017, and now we have a chance. We're getting stories all over the place. This show is coming out in 2026 on Prime. So, quick question for you. This looks like we know it's not going to be K, right? We know that this protagonist of 2099 is not going to be K. I'm rewatching that scene today. If I were anybody associated with this franchise, especially how hot Gosling is now, I would try to get him back so bad to tell a different story in this universe, because he is so perfectly suited for this universe. He is so perfectly, like, he looks great in the outfits. He looks like it is. I can't even fathom. They should try to get him back, is what I'm saying. If you're trying to do it, I don't know that that's feasible now that he's, the megastar that he is. But the franchise viability, I think, is still there. I think if you create a Bangarang Blade Runner show, 2099 is good and people find it. It's one of my favorite sci-fi franchises, and I like a lot of sci-fi, and you know that too. Like,
yes,
it's just one of those things. Yes.
I mean, I would love to see more in this world. I think there's a lot to explore thematically.
I think it might be done. I think you're right. Where you're headed.
What it has to show us concerns me. As it kind of goes into the idea of, and it does kind of here play with the idea of personhood for an artificial intelligence and artificial life, and God knows, the same thing that led us to Terminator, the Judgment Day, and the Terminator franchise.
Terminator, Twilight Zone, Star Trek: The Next Generation, all of these things have looked at
Colossus,
what does it mean to be
project.
Right. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have a soul? Right.
What does it mean to be sentient? An actual, an actual
present. Yeah.
consciousness.
Living.
That,
yes.
You can't just, it's the Turing test, writ large. Hell, Frankenstein, really, when you get right down to it, the original
well, yes, there is a lot in common with Dr. Frankenstein and Niander Wallace and Terrell, for that matter, right? Like, that's one of the fascinating things about the franchise. The thing about the franchise where it needs to slide maybe that, and again, you might be right. It might be over, because Ford's not going to be there, Gosling's not going to be there. Like, it becomes a diminishing returns kind of thing for everybody involved with trying to make these movies. But I think, like, I think you're right about the scary part. The scary part is 2049 predicted so many things that are going wrong with our society right now in 2026. What if 2029 predicts all the things that are going to be wrong again?
Yeah, I know. I don't need to know about any other horrible crap coming down the pike. But I'm having enough trouble with this.
I think this is an interesting universe where the stories have not all yet been told, is my take. And I think at some point we might get, it might stop, or it might just end. But I think it would always be there, because it is the Prometheus of our time, right? It is the Prometheus story of our time.
Funny you should mention the word Prometheus, because I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Well, first of all, have you watched Alien Earth yet?
Yes.
Okay. That takes place in 2120, and that's the earliest in the Alien franchise.
Yes.
Could you see, in that 63 years between this movie and like the time in Alien Earth, a continual line, and to the androids that we see in the Alien franchise? Would you feel that they're playing fair if they said definitively, yes, Blade Runner leads to the Alien franchise, which ultimately leads, and loops in a little bit with the
Predator. So a couple things.
Big cinematic universe is what I'm asking.
Yeah, big cinema on the next generation movie. No, okay. So a couple things. When you're watching Alien Earth, in Alien Earth, one of the things that comes up is there are no more governments, and there are no more countries. There are corporations. Corporations run the world, and there are 5. I think there's 5 corporations, right? 5 corporations, 3 of which we've seen, right? One is Weyland-Yutani. The other is the boy genius corporation, and a third corporation, right? That's more of a military corporation. We have not seen all 5 of them. My question to you, and throwing it back to you, because this is a big boy sci-fi, sitting at Denny's eating waffles kind of talk.
At 2 a.m., yeah.
At 2 a.m., finding some White Castle and having a long talk. I could see a world where the Weyland-Yutani androids are somehow tied to the replicants, right? I could see that world. I have no problem seeing that world. I actually like seeing that. I would love to see that world, in the sense that
I think thematically, the
questions are all there.
Science, dehumanizing people, and the
idea that
shit about anybody.
We're going to talk Alien Earth. My questions, once things started, and it was like only corporations run things. Okay, Wallace, one of those corporations. But that's a question you and I have, right? Because you and I are crazy about this shit. But Weyland-Yutani has been entrenched in things, and like the idea, if you had told me at some point that Weyland-Yutani and Terrell had a conversation, that wouldn't surprise me if it became canon. It just wouldn't surprise me.
There have been moments in both Alien Earth and then like the recent Predator films with where Wailing Yutani androids pop up, and that's a much better crossover between those two franchises than the two Alien versus Predator films, because those are crap. Where I'm just like,
no, you're not going to get any fight here. Predator Badlands is a much better movie than any Alien versus Predator movie.
It's kind of like how Isaac Asian stories over here, and then he drew a line through all of them later on in his career, and to show how they all kind of like synced up into an overall grander story. I would kind of be okay if they did that here, because I think thematically it would work, as well as
the problem you're going to find, though, and this is, one corporation owns one franchise and one corporation owns another, and to mix in your peanut butter and my chocolate gets much more difficult as these franchises get longer in the tooth and the IP gets more profitable. That's the only problem. Like, watching Alien Earth as we begin to get ready for next week, watching Alien Earth, my questions were, I want to know the other corporations, right? I need to know. Because
they can't be up to any good either.
Right. I can't say I want to know the other corporations. I need to know the other corporations. I know one's Wayland Yutani, and they've never been good. Nope. I know another is the Boy Genius, and he's worse. He's terrible. Right. And so when you start getting into, the other one's a military corporation, and then the other two we don't know anything about. And one of them could conceivably be Wallace, the Wallace Corp. Right?
Or
all fucking
their
replicants.
inheritors.
Right. Are the inheritors, and they're all fucking replicants. Because he talks about, Niander Wallace talks about in the middle, I have millions of children. I've caused off-world colonies. I should own the stars. This is what he says. Right?
Actually, I would not be surprised if, and here's me just off the top of my head pitching an idea for a third Blade Runner movie, where you got somebody like him looking at, how can I put my consciousness into a replicant body and allow me basically essentially to live forever.
Yeah. And the government cracking down on that. Yes. Now that we've talked about Alien Earth, interesting thing, fun thing. Next week is 420, Rich. Some people would say you can do all kinds of pot stuff, or you can celebrate one of the great. You can come here with us on 420 night at 9:00 and celebrate one of the most influential, one of the most stellar, one of the most amazing sci-fi horror films. Sorry, reverse it. Ever made, Ridley Scott's 1979 classic Alien. And here's where it gets fun, Rich, because the following week, we're gonna do, not Blade Runner. I'm sorry, I lied. We're gonna do Aliens. So we're gonna do Alien and Aliens together because we've never done them. Aliens is celebrating its 40th anniversary. Next week you get Alien. The following week you get Aliens. Amazing. I'm super excited for Alien Day. It's right around LV 426, which is the planet. So, Rich, before I go to you, just so if you like anything we talked about tonight, if you like our movie history stuff, how we go over things, follow us and watch us, Generation Movie. Like us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever the fuck whack job is calling it, X, Instagram, YouTube, IMDb, all those places. We also have a great show coming up with Symbolistic Cynicism on April 15th at 10:00. Join Gabe with his special guest. We do Loud Nerdy, but not tomorrow night, but usually every Tuesday. And then bi-weekly, we have the great guys at Untrained and Unscripted, Ryan West and Joe Ridgely. Rich, where can people find your stuff?
All of my writing can be found at filmbuffonline.com. We got a Facebook page to let you know what's when we put up new stuff, as well as letting you know all sorts of stuff like little history tidbits and stuff like that every day. We try to keep it entertaining and fun, so feel free to track us down there. I can be found on the socials at Filmbuff Rich on Twitter, Blue Sky, and when I remember that I have it, Threads. This coming weekend, I will be in Philadelphia. I'm attending a screening at the Ambler Theater of the pre-code comedy Merrily We Go to Hell, which is going to be hosted with a Q&A afterwards with Turner Classic Movies' Alicia Malone, who is like one of their mainstay hosts. And she's wonderful.
We Go
so
to
I'm
Hell.
like very excited.
Is it a documentary about today?
No,
like,
no, it's not a documentary about today.
Okay.
No, it's a fun pre-code film about a couple who decide to spice things up by going into an open marriage. This is the 1920s. Yeah, this movie is literally almost 100 years old.
Are you saying people didn't want to fuck in the 20s?
Oh, they did. They did.
Yes.
They just weren't allowed to in movies after a while.
They weren't allowed to talk about it.
The people who can't.
That sounds fascinating.
But
amazing.
Yeah, so there's that. There's the Philadelphia Spring Fest being put on by the Film Society down there. I'm gonna try to catch something on Saturday afternoon, and hopefully, maybe have something fun for that. Also, Joe sent me a message saying that we would be remiss if we did not wish a very happy birthday to the one, the only William Sadler.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Bill Sadler played Death, also played the evil Colonel in Die Hard 2. An amazing musician as well. I was on an Indie Escape Network show where he couldn't talk about anything movie-wise, so we just talked about his music. He did like a kitchen table album. It was amazing. Comments before we go. Oh, JW Movie Guy, Facebook, Twitter, all those places. Any of the places online. I'll celebrate both on 420. Thank you. Happy birthday, William Sadler. Again, from the network. And he hit all three. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see everybody next week for Alien. Go see a movie. Got a lot of movies out there, and theaters are humming right now. Let's keep it that way. Have a great night. Stay safe. We'll see you next week on Generation Movie. Bye.
Take care.